let's go old school here because I don't know how many of you guys have heard this. This is President Dwight Eisenhower giving his farewell address to the nation, and he gives a really, really ominous message and a warning about the military-industrial complex.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development. Yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
If he could come back for one day, he would say, "Oh my God, I told you so. I warned you this was going to happen, and you guys didn't listen to me." It's really creepy. It's almost like he had a crystal ball or something, and he knew that this was almost certainly going to happen, and we needed to fight against it. We needed to fight against this thing that he refers to as the military-industrial complex. So what does that mean? Let me break it down in more layman's terms, because I know the way he described it, it's a little bit hard to grasp and wrap your head around. It basically means beware of the business of war, okay? So when a nation goes to war, what happens? Well, you're going to need people in the factories to make, the fighter jets, for example, and the tanks, and the M16s, and the body armor, and the clothes, and everybody, it's all hands on deck. The nation goes back to work, and the nation is mobilized behind a cause, okay? So guess what? While war overall is this hideous, grotesque, disgusting, horrific, scary thing, and it's like the worst of our human nature, here's one thing it can be really good for: the economy. Now, the fear is, as he was laying out, that whoa, don't fall for this trick, man. Don't fall for the trick of let's go to endless war, because then that'll help our economy and it'll make our economy boom nonstop, and we'll all be very prosperous because we're fighting everywhere in the world and we're starting all these wars and we're toppling governments, and we're, so widespread out with 900 military bases like we have today, so on and so forth. And here's the other aspect to it, which really shows you how corrupt it is and how it's based on bribery and how it's kind of nefarious. So the way it works is you have these big defense contractors, these corporations, and they get contracts. They're private, mind you, but they get contracts from the government to make tanks, for example, so that we could use them in battle or in a war whenever we need them, or they make fighter jets for bombing and whatnot, okay? And what happens is So the Congress will pass a contract to build more tanks, and the tank company will then build the tanks and make a hefty profit, but then they also take some of that money and they give it back to the politicians, okay, in the form of campaign contributions, which means that when the politicians get reelected, as, by the way, 95% of the time that happens, the one who raises the most money gets elected, okay? So when they get back in office, what are they going to do? They keep the cycle going. It's all a ruse. So they give more contracts to the company that makes the tanks. And then lobbyists give more money to the politicians. And it's just a circle jerk of cash where you're perpetuating what is now a war machine. Because guess what? I mean, yeah, you can have those tanks sit in the middle of the desert in Nevada, which, by the way, some of them are doing right now. But also what you're going to want to do is actually use them. You're going to be much quicker to start a war with a random country that, I don't know, say didn't attack us, but they were blamed for 9/11, and then we were told they had WMDs, and then we were told he's just a really bad guy, so we need to go in there anyway. See what I'm getting at here? It makes it so that all of the politicians of every party are more likely to be willy-nilly about, well, let's go bomb Syria. Looks like something's wrong there. Well, why do you want to bomb Syria? It's got nothing to do with us. Why do you want to put American lives at risk because of somebody else's fucking problems? Why? Because they got all these fucking planes sitting around. They got to do something with them. Okay? This is the military-industrial complex. This is why the business of war, the corruption, the fact that a small group of people, the defense contractors, the lobbyists, and the politicians, the fact that they get very rich off of all this means they're going to be very nonchalant about starting wars all over the place and setting up all these military bases. And then meanwhile, what's the end result? All the money that should be going towards our healthcare, all the money that should be going towards our education, rebuilding the roads and the bridges, actually efficiently regulating Wall Street and whatnot, all that money that should be going towards building our own country is now going towards spreading war all over the place and enriching a small group of people. That is the military-industrial complex, and Eisenhower was totally right to warn against it, but we fell right into the trap.